Good morning, I'm Matt Schwartz, Chair of the Worksite Wellness Council of Louisville, here with Doug McSwain, who's a partner with Wyatt, Tarrant Combs. He's based out of Lexington, but came over this morning to join us for a session, and we talked about really some updates with regard to the ACA and the impacts on the market, and then a little bit about wellness. So Doug, just want to ask you, I know we spent some time on really what individual small group, but talking about how it impacts. So give me some, just high level, some of the changes that have happened here recently with regard to the law.
Well, the Affordable Care Act, I think, is in a real dynamic stage right now. Clearly, the Trump administration is making changes and making this become a much more conservative-looking law. And through the administrative process and executive ability to control regulations, I think we are going to see a continuing dynamic in as much as Congress itself was not able to jump in and tackle any major changes. Now, they did do one major change, which is, I think, relieve the pressure on many Republicans, and that is to eliminate the individual mandate penalty in the Tax Cut and Jobs Act bill that passed in December of 2017. But beyond that, we're now seeing a lot of regulatory changes in the process, and I think we're going to find that the Affordable Care Act lands at a much more conservative level, and we may very well be in for some, knock on wood, stability coming in the next couple of years on what this thing looks like. There will not be anybody happy. Many Republicans will continue to be unhappy with it, and many Democrats will continue to be unhappy with the status quo unless and until there is some legislative fixes. But I think that's really where we are.
And I know we talked about, 2017, there was repeal, replace, repair, and eventually it was just remain, as I think the word you used.
Right.
But you did say, there were some changes with regard to some reimbursements. And again, they're really individual marketplace. This has to do with cost sharing, and we won't dig deep, but cost sharing that where there were subsidies coming to insurance companies, they expected it, they didn't get it, which meant they lost money. And we talked about that could have some impact on the group markets because they've got to find money somewhere.
That's right. And I think with the cutoff of the CSRs, which is the cost-sharing subsidies you're talking about, and with the likely adoption of an association health plan and short-term limited duration insurance rule, I think, and maybe even some with the HR rules, I know that those are all in the works. With those adoptions, I think we are likely to see a substantial increase in premiums going into the 2019 market. And I won't be surprised if we don't see premiums. In fact, a lot of independent organizations have projected as much as 30 or greater % nationwide, much like last year. And I suspect we'll see some insurance companies start to pull out of the markets. So we're at some of the Obamacare exchanges. All of that, though, then it begins to affect employer groups because as the insurance markets on the individual side get more and more unstable, they have to get that money back someplace. So it raises the entire bar on premiums for everybody.
Right, and we talked about a little bit the associated, and we're already seeing this, just in the market. So yes, insurance companies have already pulled out of the individual market. You only, in Kentucky, only really have sort of two players, but like in Louisville, only one, Lexington one. So, but we've already said, like association health plans, it's a segmentation of the market.
Correct.
And so again, while you're talking about premium increases, if you're healthy, you get lower rates, but unhealthy then is going to get higher, and that was the impact that has on group. So we also then shifted to talk a little bit about the wellness rules, because there's been a couple of changes and lawsuits, and so give me the quick skinny there, because we had the EEOC thing and the AARP, that was a big one.
Right. Toward the end of the Obama administration, we had the settlement of the issue, we thought, in a final rule that set the balance between what is deemed voluntary information giving, health information giving by employees to their employers when associated with a group health plan or a health and wellness plan. And that rule set the 30% rule. That was promptly challenged by the AARP in court. And the AARP has succeeded in winning that challenge that the 30% rule that drew this bright line for employer health plans is now no longer going to be there, effective January the 1st, 2019. We're expecting that the Trump administration will come out through the EEOC with a new rule in August. That's the expectation. But regardless, the whole rule that gives you the safe harbor is going to be gone in January of 2019. So we got to have some guidance from them, and I suspect they probably will come out with something late this fall.
So in effect, I mean, what that means for employers is, as of January 1, renewal dates January 1 and beyond, you have to be aware you may or may not be able to use incentives to encourage participation in a wellness program if it has to do with medical care.
Certainly you
can't.
can.
A lot of HRAs and a lot of biometric screenings, I mean all the things that people use, that's at risk.
That's at risk. And we don't know what direction they're going to go. Are they going to remove all incentives, or are they just going to move the threshold back some? Are they going to come out with a better reasoned rule to support the 30% and then just battle it? Are they going to try to take an actuarial approach, which was a thread of the law that already existed going into the final rulemaking that suggested that you could get this for actuarial reasons anyway. But that law has not been, those cases have not been settled at the U.S. Supreme Court. So we've got this unstable situation coming in January, and yes, employers need to be watching that.
I guess the big takeaway, being that we talk about wellness all the time, is that Obamacare and the it's kind of remain as is. We're not going to necessarily see a lot of change. I mean, we feel like it's probably in a equilibrium, is what you described.
I think we're hitting political equilibrium. I don't know that the markets are going to like the equilibrium or not, but politically we are.
Right. But I guess with that said, just notwithstanding this issue with the EEOC, employers' wellness programs are the critical piece to controlling costs. And we'll see how this shakes out as to how we can do it, but they remain a really critical piece.
Now, interesting, I didn't get to this in today's presentation, but there's been a number of pieces of legislation that were introduced in Congress to try to create a bright line like the 30% rule. But most of that legislation didn't get off the ground. I don't know what the makeup of Congress will be starting in 2019. But it's possible we get a legislative fix on the health and wellness side. I would watch the legislative arena on that front, because I don't think that the instability that exists because of the AARP decision is going to stay. There has to be some resolution, and it may happen in a new rule, but that may itself be subject to challenge, and ultimately it's going to have to depend on a congressional fix.
Right. Well, we thank you. We appreciate your expertise and sharing with us. We're here every third Thursday of every month, Baptist East Milestone. We'll see you next time.